Sure. My name is Diana Economy, and I'm the Senior Associate Director of Admissions here at Ross. And I am thrilled that we are able to bring you this webinar today with some of our fantastic alums and talking a little bit about their experience both at Ross as well as their career in marketing and how Ross prepared them for their career in marketing. We will be introducing you to the panel, but I wanted to let you know about a few features of our webinar. First and foremost, the ability to share questions through the webinar functionality. Please feel free to do so throughout the webinar, and we will do our best to answer questions. For those that we don't get to during the webinar, which hopefully we will get to as many as we can, we will also do our best to follow up with you on those responses. Really, the point of today is for you to get a better feel for both what a day in the life of a marketer or brand manager looks like, or how Ross is able to support you as I know you will take a look at different schools and options that you have available to you. So we have a lot of great people here to speak with you today, and the first person I'd like to introduce you to is one of our current students and the co-president of our Ross Marketing Club, Emily Daigle.
Hi, good afternoon, everyone. My name is Emily Daigle, and like Diana said, I'm a current MBA student, so a second-year student, and co-president of the Ross Marketing Club. So I'll tell you a little bit about myself, and then we'll have the panelists introduce themselves. Before Ross, I was working in public relations consulting, both in Los Angeles and then in Chicago. I spent my summer out in the Bay Area near San Francisco working at Clorox, and then I'll be going to General Mills in Minneapolis for full-time. So now we'd like to have the panelists do a quick introduction so you can get to know a little bit about who's speaking to you today. So if they could just go through and say what you were doing before Ross, what you were doing after Ross, why you chose Ross, and then maybe some things that you took advantage of or things you were involved in while you were here at Ross. So Roxanne, if you want to start.
Sure. Hi, everyone. I'm Roxanne Bell. I'm originally from San Diego, California, and before Ross, I was a civil engineer designing highways. I chose Ross because of the people, which sounds really cliche, but when I actually visited the campus, that was when I just really felt the connection with people who were there that I've met, current students, just very genuine and welcoming and helpful in showing me around. And I just really felt like my personality fit there. I looked at other business schools and I felt like I could go to any top 10 MBA and get a great education. It was really about like where I fit best. I decided to transition into brand management for business school. So I interned at General Mills and then took a full-time role as an assistant brand manager at S.C. Johnson, and have recently, well, in the last 7 months, actually transitioned from SCJ to Activision Publishing. So I'm currently on the Call of Duty brand team there. And then, sorry, I forgot the other question.
What kind of things were you involved in while you were at Ross?
Oh, yes. So I was in the marketing club, helped plan the marketing symposium. I was also the prospective student relations chair for the Black Business Student Association.
Great. Ginny, do you want to go next?
Sure. So I'm Ginny Lee. I graduated in '09, and I was actually a healthcare consultant in D.C. before business school. Went back thinking I wanted to go into marketing, but wasn't sure about brand management or other types of marketing, so sort of discovered brand management through the recruiting process and became interested that way. Did my internship at Nestle in California working on chilled beverages for Jamba Juice, and then really enjoyed CPG, but at the same time I wanted something a little bit broader instead of focused on product. So I decided that retail would be a better fit for me, and within retail, the culture of Target and the way that the people interacted and the way that I fit here felt actually very similar to Ross, and that was one thing that, like Roxanne, had attracted me to the culture at Ross, and knowing that I would thrive there is one of the big reasons that I landed at Target too. So I've been here for the last 4 years and have had a series of roles. Right now I am the buyer for Halloween and Valentine's candy. So it's bat on the waistline, but it's a really fun job, and I've learned a lot. So the Ross Network has also been really helpful and supportive in my time here. And then in terms of at Ross, I was actually the director of marketing for MTREC and was one of the first people involved in launching what you guys now term, I guess, the Women's Weekend. It was Discover Ross then. So really exciting to get that off the ground and sort of help shape that. And I was also really involved in the marketing club, of course. So great organization there where it's really led and driven by the students, also part of that collaborative culture that really sets you up for success.
Great. And Vicki?
Sure. Hi, everyone. My name is Vicki Torelli. I'm originally from Boston, Massachusetts, and before Ross, I was actually working in litigation consulting for about 4 years, so I'm definitely a career switcher. So coming out of that job, I knew my industry interest really lied within CPG, and that I wanted to transition into more of an internal strategic role. So as I looked at business schools, kind of unbeknownst to me, I decided to transition into marketing, and that really kind of met those needs in both taking on an internal strategic role and also transitioning into the industry I wanted to be in. So I actually was able to intern with General Mills between my first and second years. So I interned on the Progresso brand here in Minneapolis. And I have returned as a full-time employee here, and I'm now acting as an associate marketing manager back on the meals division, but actually covering all brands excluding Progresso. So I'm on Helper, Old El Paso, and Betty Crocker sides. Why Ross? I would really have to agree with Roxanne. It was largely about the people. I think every point of contact I had with anyone, either a current student at Ross or an alumnus who I met, I just got a really good feeling from the school, and I also felt like it was going to do just a really great job of career, setting me up as a career switcher. Just had a really strong marketing curriculum, a great marketing club that I just knew that it would make that transition as seamless as it could be. So during my time at Ross, like Emily Daigle, I was co-president of the Ross Marketing Club, so that was a great experience. Big time investment, but just a great experience to have during my 2 years at the Ross School of Business. And then in addition to that, I was also a peer coach with the Ross Career Services. So that was really just me wanting to pay it forward, knowing how much the MBA 2s had helped me in kind of marketing myself as a career switcher, and how my past work experience could still be relevant for a career in brand management and marketing.
Great. So now we'll go through a couple of questions that we've prepared, and then we'll open it to all of you, to all of your questions. So first, if you guys want to answer, what do you wish you would have known about marketing when you were applying to business school, so when you were in the shoes of everyone on the webinar today, and then what steps did you take to determine if marketing was the right path for you?
I can jump in on that. This is Ginny. I would say one thing that I've learned now, being in the business world, is it's incredible the impact that technology and the whole multi-channel availability of different ways to access product has impacted marketing. It's no longer a store experience and a circular and a newspaper and the more traditional forms of media. It is just amazing how all those different pieces interact with each other, and I think I would have jumped into learning about all of those things the minute I hit the ground in business school because of all the different backgrounds that your peers have, and especially at Ross with the bent towards entrepreneurship as well as marketing, and a lot of the great technological resources that are unique to Ross. Really learning from those would have been that much more powerful when I started. Those were there, but I didn't necessarily take as much advantage of those at the time, and of course in recent years it's certainly ramped up that much more. In terms of the other piece of that question, what steps did I take to determine if marketing was the right path for you? I would say just obviously the learn by doing, the whole action-based learning is such a powerful part of this. At Ross, the marketing club is run by largely MBA 2s, of course, their support of leadership, but that is really the best experience you could possibly have from people who have just gone through it the year before and can give you the down and dirty on what's really going to set you up for success. So I really tapped into that resource probably more than anything else. Also did that internship, of course, and took a number of positions as an MBA 2. But the one thing that really I could speak about as I started my new job was case studies. So Ross really does a great job of having, you know, the long involved ones that are either part of a class or a part of a competition, as well as the smaller ones that you can do in an hour that the marketing club sets up for you. And hey, you can win a couple gift cards or just the glory of congratulations, you had the best idea. But either way, just getting immersed in that action really sets your mindset up to be prepared for being a successful marketer.
Yeah, just to piggyback on that, this is also Roxanne. I think that going in, one of the things that I didn't evaluate, but which that I had looked at were what companies actually come to campus to do the recruiting. I think with going into marketing, it just makes your life a lot easier from the job perspective if companies are actually coming looking for you as opposed to you having to go out and search for them. And I think at Ross, like, I really lucked out in that I was going into marketing and that every CPG comes to campus. So that was really helpful. And then having a strong alumni base at those companies as well. So the companies that I was interested in working for, just knowing that there were a ton of other Ross alums who were looking out for me and helping me transition into those companies.
Yeah, and maybe one more thing I would say, something I didn't truly appreciate before actually being a student at Ross was how differently marketing is defined by industry, and then also kind of even deeper than that, how differently individual companies define their marketing departments. So whether it's more general management focus or more just traditional marketing focus, I didn't fully appreciate how many different forms a marketing role can take. And I'd say in terms of what steps I took to determine if marketing was the right path for me, it was more of just really taking a step back from what I was doing on a day-to-day and trying to kind of get to the bottom of what do I really enjoy about what I'm doing currently and how can I kind of leverage that and build upon that and get to where I should be in my career. So, you know, like I said, I never expected marketing to fall in my lap. I was just associated marketing with, you know, PR work or whatever it might be. But I think just really taking a step back, understanding how marketing can be defined by industry, by company, and then how maybe I can fit into that as well.
And Vicki just touched on this a little bit, but another question that often comes up is what types of marketing roles exist. So as you're thinking about what you may want to go into, kind of what are the options out there in marketing. And so I can speak a little bit about that, and then if you guys have anything to add from the panelists. So traditionally, I think when people think about marketing and a marketing role coming out of business school, people usually think about CPG, which is consumer packaged goods brand management. And there are definitely a lot of opportunities with that, and still a good majority of people interested in marketing will go into those types of roles. But there are also a lot of other roles within a lot of different industries, and so I've seen a lot of my classmates, whether it's for an internship or now for full-time recruiting, look at opportunities like what Ginny's doing in retail or within technology. There's a lot of marketing opportunities now within the tech sector, also within healthcare and entertainment. So really whatever industry you may be interested in or think you're interested in, there are marketing opportunities there. And beyond the marketing club here at Ross, there are also industry-specific clubs where so people interested in tech marketing will be a member of the marketing club and active with our club, but also a member of the tech club and get a lot of good information and learning there as well.
You know, we have a related question from the audience, and it says, has anyone ever been associated with marketing projects in the education world or any experience with the technology or education clubs, and how is marketing used within those fields? Were any of you involved with maybe the community consulting club or other, you know, other areas at Ross where maybe people wouldn't think about it as, oh gosh, I can gain marketing skills through this experience? Did anybody try different industries or fields through some of the other Ross experiences, particularly if it was technology or education focused?
Sort of. A little bit of a different angle. I mean, of course, there's the MAP program, which is a really exciting opportunity to dabble in something that is completely different from what your background is and gives you a real-life experience to talk about. And so for me, as I was making the transition from healthcare into more products, I needed to get my arms around something like that. And so was able to do a MAP project in India related to some service products and getting presbyopic eyeglasses to rural communities. So alternatively, my friend was in Board Fellows and used the combination of Board Fellows and her affiliation with one of the local schools in the community and the MAP program to make a transition into the education field. So it's really a neat way to use these more quote-unquote official experiences to be able to talk about as though they were work experience and leverage that as a platform for your next step. And Ross offers a lot of unique types of things like that that I think really sets it apart.
And just to give a background on MAP for those of you who are just kind of exploring, so Ginny hit on it pretty well. So Ross is on quarters. So the fourth quarter, essentially the last 7 weeks of your first year, rather than being in the classroom, you're on something called a multidisciplinary action project, or MAP. You have one of 100 projects to choose from in many different industries around the world. Half of the projects are international, half of them are domestic. And because the MAP experience is 7 weeks and most often your internship is 10 weeks, it really serves as a second internship for you to develop experiences and stories that you can leverage in recruiting for future opportunities. So it's a really significant experience that you work on with a team of 4 to 6 students, guided only at a high level by the professors but your team will help scope the project and really drive a deliverable over the course of 7 weeks. Did any of the rest of you have a MAP project that was focused on anything in marketing, or maybe can you give an overview of what MAPs you had?
Yeah, sure. I'll speak to mine. So mine was basically building a marketing plan for Ballet Chicago. So this was when I knew I wouldn't be in Chicago for my internship. I always danced as a kid, and it was kind of my entry into marketing, so it was kind of a trifecta for me. So it was basically taking a very broad look at Ballet Chicago and if they were pricing correctly, if they were positioning their company correctly, if they were promoting in kind of relevant channels. They just hadn't really taken a look at how they should be properly marketing their company and what their company stands for. So just a really interesting project and kind of a passion project, like I said, being a dancer for so many years. So just a really, really interesting experience, and yeah, definitely something I could speak to, as far as marketing experience went, just even before my internship started. So just great experience all around.
Yeah, same here. This is Roxanne. My MAP was with Ubisoft, which is another video game company, and me and my team, we worked on creating a short-term and long-term strategy for them to transition from just being a video game company into a 360-degree entertainment company very similar to Disney. And that actually not only gave me the experience from more of a marketing side and strategic side, but also I was able to leverage that to get the position that I'm in now at Activision, which is one of Ubisoft's biggest competitors.
Wow.
One thing that is a little less publicized at Ross that is also pretty intriguing is that there's a second opportunity to do what's effectively a MAP project. We call it MAP 2. It's during your second year, and it's a semester long, but instead of taking that and not doing any classes and having that be your complete focus, you also have simultaneous classes, so you get credit for it like a class. And so for me, I had a team of people that we got to choose, and we worked with a company to develop a North American launch strategy for a medical device in Israel. And so they were just trying to understand the North American landscape through the lens of this Israeli company was a really interesting way to get a perspective on global business that is very different than what we would traditionally have the opportunity to do, which is to expand from North America into somewhere global. So being able to talk about that in my interviews was also a really great opportunity once I had decided, yes, I want to go into marketing, but what are those other nuances that I want to continue to add to my, to my toolbox and to my toolkit and be able to talk about as I go into full-time interviews.
Great. So I know one thing that I was interested in when I was trying to think through kind of what I wanted to focus on and do my internship on as a first year was kind of what a typical day would look like if I was a marketer or a brand manager. So maybe if the panelists could go through and kind of talk about kind of what a typical day looks like, what types of things are you working on, what do you like most about your current role, and maybe what do you like least as well?
Great. I'll start off with this one. This is Vicki. So I would say I have no 2 days that are ever similar from the one past. I'm actually in a pretty untraditional marketing role right now. So I'm in a rotation that we call strategic growth channels. So I cover off on 3 brands, so Helper, Old El Paso, and Betty Crocker Sides, across 2 channels, so in the club channel and in the small format channel, which includes dollar, drug, and deep discount stores. So just a lot going on the day-to-day. I'd say sometimes I get to Thursday in the week and realize I haven't really done much work at all for Helper in the past 3 or 4 days, but it just kind of depends on what projects need my attention on what days and what fire drills kind of present themselves. So I'd really say that's kind of my favorite and least favorite thing about my job is that it definitely keeps me on my toes. Sometimes I get to, 9 o'clock in the morning and feel like I've already accomplished more in a day than I used to in a full day at my last job. So, ever-changing, always presents, new challenges and issues. But I'd also say, by the time I leave my desk at the end of the day, I really feel like I've contributed to the company. And, when you think of how you, as a marketer and as a brand manager, kind of act as the hub of a wheel and work with so many different cross-functional teams, you just feel like you've had so many different points of contact throughout the day. And you learn so much through your peers because of that. So I'd say kind of my favorite thing about my job maybe also acts as my least favorite, but it's just because, it always challenges me and that's definitely not a bad thing. So.
Yeah, I'd have to agree. Yeah, the days are definitely not similar. I think it might be a little easier if I just talk about like a project that I worked on and some of the things that were involved there. I mean, you really are the hub of the wheel. So for the Collectors Edition for Call of Duty, I got an opportunity to work with our finance team to try to figure out like what our P&L had to look like in terms of determining a number of units that we should produce, manufacture and sell, pricing, discounts that we would offer to certain retailers, and then having to work with like my operations team to try to figure out from a supply chain standpoint, how are we actually going to get all of these units into production? Where are they being produced? Is it in the U.S.? Is it in China? How do we ship all of those things? What are the cost implications for some of that? And then going further and trying to figure out, okay, well, how do you bring this marketing communication to consumers? So working with our consumer marketing team to come up with different creative for print ads, digital ads, the different communication that's even going to be on the packaging or promoted socially and digitally. So it's really all-encompassing, and so the days and the meetings that you have kind of fill out with just depending on where you are in the project and what steps need to be taken and alignment that needs to be gained.
So from a retail perspective, it's a little bit different than traditional marketing. I will say what is consistent is that no day is the same by any means. We do, in retail, we do own the P&L, and we are, like a marketer, responsible for the 4 Ps. There is sort of a 5th P for us, which is the presentation or the merchandising of each of these items. So for us, it's a suite of items, or it's an experience that we're developing. So we have a constant focus on the guest or the consumer, as well as all of our vendors who are focusing on the same thing as they develop the products that we sell. So we are all aligned in terms of goals, but we have to figure out how are we going to differentiate ourselves as a particular retailer? What are the exclusives? How do we get the vendors to be aligned with really wanting to stand for something special at Target and make the guests pick Target over all of their different options in this ever-evolving retail landscape? You know, on top of that, I'm working with our own brands team to develop private label products, the guest insights team to see what they have to say about what other channels are doing, how Target is stacking up, what our market share looks like, what are the insights about how guest behavior has changed. I'm going to conferences and trying to learn more about the candy landscape. I'm traveling to vendors' facilities and headquarters and touring those and enfranchising all of their cross-functional teams to develop something special for us. I'm working with marketing, which our marketing team at Target is more around our circulars or our advertising, our PR, and our in-store marketing, which is our signage. So that's what we term marketing, even though my job is also marketing. I'm termed a buyer. So I work very closely with them as well to make sure that what we're advertising is aligned with my strategy. So it's, you know, it's always different depending on when we're going to reset something in the store and when we're going to have a new experience for the guest, and how do we make sure that she knows it's there and she gets excited and obviously wants to pick up, you know, one more unit as well as show up at Target in the first place.
Great. And so it sounds like when all you were introducing yourselves that you used your time at Ross to transition from something else into the marketing careers that you're in now. So I think it would be interesting to hear how your Ross experience prepared you for your career in marketing, and what resources did you take advantage of while you were here at Ross to help you make that move into the careers that you're in now.
So
I think
I'll jump in.
oh, go ahead.
Go ahead, Jenny.
Oh, I was just going to say, just the community more than anything else was so unbelievably helpful for me. You know, going into interviews for an internship and being a career switcher, I truly used my peers to, and of course they used me. You know, we practiced over and over. We compared our experiences before and after, how we were telling those stories, and how we were really crafting a message that would resonate with a particular company. That community was very, very helpful. You'll find that, you know, you're spending equally as much time preparing for interviews as you are on your classes. I mean, after all, that's kind of the point of going to business school. And so having a collaborative community is so key versus one where people are competing with each other and it isn't as healthy. I think you can't underestimate the importance of that. So that was one piece, and then I would say coming out of the internship and comparing experiences and using the marketing club to say, you know, when this happened at Nestle, was this normal? You know, is this like best in class, or was this terrible? I mean, you truly, just having that group to bounce all of those experiences off of helps give you a perspective to make the right decision for you.
Yeah, I would agree. So I definitely used peers as well for like mock interviews, and the marketing club for study guides and tips. And then I also felt like some of the case competitions were extremely helpful. So there was one that I did with the San Diego Padres, and that one actually gave us access to Tom Garfinkel, who is currently the CEO of the Padres. At the time, he was the COO. He's also a Ross MBA alum. And he was just extremely helpful in not just making sure that there were Michigan teams that were a part of the case competition, but also in following up with our team to see like if we needed internships, if we were interested in the Padres, and things like that. So I think that was really helpful. Just experience from a marketing perspective, as well as like another like network connection. I also took advantage of, I really liked one of the classes that I thought was super helpful was strategic market planning. So that one, it literally had a simulation game where teams would get together and make decisions about their company that would impact the marketplace, which is like your entire class, so the different teams that are within the class. So I felt like it was really hands-on, realistic experience into like what are some of the impacts of the strategic and tactical decisions that not only your team makes, but your competitors within the market space. So that was really helpful for me.
That was a good class. I took that too.
Yeah, I took that as well.
I love that class.
Yeah. I think one more thing I might add is peer coaching through Ross Career Services was huge for me as an MBA 1. I think there were a couple MBA 2s that I just really kind of grasped onto, and they were career switchers like me who had already gone through internship recruiting and really knew kind of how best to market yourself and how best you could highlight relevant skills from your prior work experience. So whether it was just reviewing your resume and strengthening that or going through a mock interview, but I also just really leveraged them to just set up time to meet and just discuss kind of where my head was at, kind of companies I was looking more closely at, and they usually, you know, even if they couldn't directly answer my questions, knew who I could contact and who would be able to answer my questions. So the MBA 2s in general were huge for me, but I'd say especially the peer coaching staff was just super, so.
Great. And so we had a question from the audience about long-term career goals. So I would be interested to hear from all of the panelists what, obviously, you know, your short-term goal coming out of school was likely the role that you're in now, but what are you looking at in terms of longer-term career goals?
For me personally, so even going in and taking the short-term path of brand management, I always have wanted and still am interested in doing something entrepreneurial, and I feel like brand management is a great stepping stone into that. It literally puts me in a position where I'm sort of running my own company and, you know, managing P&L and working with cross-functional teams that don't directly report to me and figuring out ways to motivate them to move forward and to get to the same goal. So I feel like it gives me a chance to almost manage my own business without risking my own capital.
Yeah, so I'm actually only 4 months into my job here at General Mills because I graduated from Ross in May. But yeah, I mean, I think as far as I can tell right now, I would really just like to stay at General Mills for as long as possible. It's set up as an up-or-out company. But, you know, I think the way that the rotations are set up, it not only keeps kind of your function relevant after 12 to 15 months, but they also make sure that you rotate by division after that time period as well. So, you know, I'm on meals right now, but next year I might be on Big G cereal. The year after that I might be on baking. So it really kind of helps redefine your kind of how you define your career every year or year and a half or so. So yeah, I would just like to ride this out as long as I can, to be completely honest with you. As long as they'll have me.
I actually was, I think I mentioned at the beginning of the call how I was interested in marketing, but actually discovered brand management and truly understood what that role was all about once I got to Ross. The same sort of evolution has happened to me at Target, where I knew about the roles that they recruited for, and I knew the public face of the company, but I had no concept of the incredible amount of support roles and you know, very specific pyramids like product design and development and global sourcing and all of the things that come together to, you know, to basically put a box full of all kinds of different kinds of products from all kinds of different industries into one place and available for the guest, as well as online. And so to me, there's just a tremendous breadth of opportunity here where you can bring, I think the nice thing about marketing is that if you can bring that lens that's focused on the consumer or the guest or whatever your particular company calls it, that will always serve you well in any role whatsoever. And so to me, there's been this huge world of opportunities where I've now opened that up for myself by being in this role, by being a buyer and by having a marketing sort of tag on my head as being somebody who can, think about the guest in that way. So that's really exciting to me. I started out thinking that I wanted to actually own my own executive coaching firm someday. That may still come to fruition, we'll see, but I know there are a number of other things that I'm also surprisingly interested in once I learned that they existed through being in this chair. So I guess my advice would be just, be open to being surprised by these roles you had no idea existed, and it may be an amazing fit that you weren't aware of.
Great. Another question that was just submitted was, how competitive is hiring for internship and full-time recruiting? And I can start with this one since I think I've gone through this most recently out of all of us, and then if the panelists have anything to add. There's definitely a lot of opportunity for both on-campus and off-campus recruiting for marketing roles. There are lots and lots of companies coming on campus seeking out Ross students, but also a lot of students who will go look for things off campus as well. In terms of competitiveness with your fellow students, I haven't felt like it has been a competitive atmosphere at all. We've all, like you've heard from some of the panelists, been helping each other prepare for interviews, and it's a lot more of a collaborative atmosphere. Everyone wants everyone else to do well. Obviously, there are probably some companies that are a little more desired each year than others, and there's a limited number of internships and full-time roles there. But, all of my peers in marketing had internships last summer. Most people now know where they're going for full-time, and so there isn't this kind of competitive atmosphere. If anyone out there is interested in more information, there is an MBA employment profile on the Ross website where you can see where Ross grads end up both for internships and for full-time in terms of companies, geographic regions, things like that for more information.
I mean, I will say when the economy gets tough, it's really nice to have the pedigree of Ross on your resume to help set you apart, and B, the tremendously huge and supportive alumni network. You can't. That's just so valuable when it turns into an employer's market rather than an employee's market. So that's always a nice thing to have.
And maybe, Vicki and Emily, I think, people aren't really aware of all of the different things that employers do on campus, right? They do so many different things. It's like daily that there are different people here. And I will tell you, I know that just being a Ross alum myself and now on the admissions team, that literally daily I get alumni who are classmates of mine who stop by who are here recruiting students. Ross alums love to come back. The airport, in relation to Ann Arbor is only 20 minutes away, so it's super easy to get in and out of Ann Arbor. I think people have concerns a little bit about, gosh, should I go to school in a big city? Should I go to school, in Ann Arbor? What does that look like? And, really recruiters are here all the time. So this notion of on campus or off campus, you really never need to leave campus to find a job. The folks that go off campus are looking for, particularly niche industries or different things where they say, I definitely want to be in this particular field or geographic industry, and I won't compromise, even though I could just stay on campus and find jobs. So I guess maybe, like I mentioned, Vicki and Emily who were here most recently, if you guys could talk a little bit about, when people come to campus, what do they do? A day in the life? Do they do lunches? Do they do case competitions? What does that look like? How do they engage with students?
Yeah, I can talk a little bit about some of the things we've had going on so far this year. So most of the activities that Diana's mentioning are run through the Marketing Club, and we have lots of different types of events. So all the companies that recruit on campus will come and do a corporate presentation. Those are in the evening after classes are over. They'll probably spend about 45 minutes to an hour going through some general background on the company, what the role of marketing is within their company, perhaps a few case studies, and then there's time at the end for you to go up and speak to all of the company representatives that are there. Often those will be followed by a happy hour, so you can have further discussions with the folks from the companies that have come to campus. We also have more specialized events, so we'll have lunch and learns where a company will come in and talk about a particular topic. So we actually had one just last week where a Procter & Gamble came in and talked about advertising for marketers and finance for marketers. We'll have representatives from Target come and take students to do a walkthrough at a local Target store here in Ann Arbor. We have Nestle coming, I think it's next week, to do a culinary event where they're bringing one of their head chefs, and he'll be going through kind of tasting and different flavor profiles and how that plays into marketing. So we have a really wide range of events. We also have events that students go to off campus with companies. So several companies will fly students out to their office for a day or two to really do a day in the life, so you get to see what the office is like. You get to meet lots of people that are working in marketing roles at those companies, and really experience what it would be like if you went there for an internship or a full-time opportunity. Similarly, we have treks through the marketing club to 4 or 5 different cities. Some are marketing specific and some are a little bit larger, but do have companies coming for marketing. We actually have one coming up where students are leaving on Thursday to go to Minneapolis to visit 4 different companies in Minneapolis over 2 days. And so again, that's a really good way to get in and see the companies firsthand and see what it would be like to possibly work there.
Yeah. And we also talk about case competitions that are offered at Ross, and oftentimes those are sponsored by companies, so that's another great touch point as well. So I know, last year when I was co-president of the marketing club, we had Conagra come on campus, and I'd say, especially again as a career switcher, just a great opportunity to really, show your stripes as a marketer, and again, just another great touch point with the recruiting team from these companies that come on campus.
Great. And so another question we had just come in was which classes are most helpful? I know we've talked a little bit about the strategic brand management class, but were there any other classes that the 3 of you took that you thought were very helpful or relevant to what you're doing now?
Oh, I wish I could remember the exact name of it, but it was basically marketing research. And I knew that I didn't want to be a marketing researcher, but I wanted to understand how marketing research was built. What were the different ways that you could approach a problem? How could you understand what the, you take tremendous amounts of data and distill it into a recommendation. And it was a mix of marketing and statistics and qualitative methods as well. It was pretty intense, but man, I learned a lot, and it really helped me not only be aware of how those different pieces come together, but also be able to talk the talk, use the right vocabulary and be able to speak intelligently at interviews and with my cross-functional partners.
Yeah, I'd say I really enjoyed a number of the marketing classes I took within the marketing department, but I'd even say certain classes like global supply chain management, which I took in my 2nd semester of my MBA 2-year, was incredible. And again, it's just one of those classes, if you're wanting to transition into brand management, you're going to have a number of conversations on the day-to-day with your logistics teams, your operations teams, and just to kind of know what hurdles they're up against and really understanding those obstacles and how you can help them strategically work around those and understand, issues with deployments, et cetera. I really think, as you think about how you can best serve these teams from a cross-functional standpoint, I think those classes are just as important to take and just as relevant.
There's a related question about coursework, about being able to take classes outside of the business school. And one of the great things about Ross is of the 57 credits that you're able to take, you're able to take up to 10 outside of the business school. At one of any of our top programs, we have 99 programs around campus at the University of Michigan that are ranked within the top 10. And I think one of the things that people don't think about when they come to campus is the law school's across the street, the policy school's across the street. We're next door to the School of Ed. We're right by the School of Social Work. We're close to the School of Natural Resources. Public health isn't very far away either. So while I would say you would never have to leave Ross to actually take a whole lot of, actually even very specialized courses, even things in healthcare, real estate, various things, specialized classes that are actually held right here at Ross, if you want to take advantage of classes outside, you certainly can, or you have the opportunity to get a dual degree in over 20 different programs And I think you find that a lot of students find that the flexibility of the curriculum and the experience to be very appealing in terms of people being able to choose things that will complement their own background and experiences in a way that's going to make sense. So we don't actually require that you major in marketing, right? We could tell you, through the marketing club, through our own internal resources, academic services, and the like, here are courses that we think would be great for you to kind of complement your experience, but you don't have to actually take a specific series of marketing courses. You could take some finance or other courses that really, again, complement your background since people come from such different backgrounds.
So transitioning back to the recruiting topic, we just had another question submitted asking if any of the panelists explored marketing roles in smaller growth-oriented companies, and if so, were those opportunities on campus or did you go off campus for those?
I didn't. So
Yeah, I didn't either, but I will say that that MAP was an opportunity to actually. There were a lot of companies that that actually partner with Ross to get their name out there, who are who actually apply for MAP projects. At least my year, I remember there were a number of those. It was a tough, 2009 was a tough year in general in the marketplace, and so I think people were getting particularly creative, and that turned out to be a really strong outlet for a lot of my classmates. One of the other things that a lot of people did, at least in my marketing group, was to go to the West Coast Forum. So it's essentially one of those marketing treks that Emily had mentioned earlier, but there was a particular group of people who were really interested in technology in Silicon Valley and coordinated a forum out there as well as some special visits with companies that weren't necessarily on the quote-unquote list.
Yeah, I think that's right. I mean, one of the things to think about when you're looking at MBA programs in terms of sort of the recruiting and what that's going to look like is it's expensive for major employers essentially to do on-campus MBA recruiting, right? And so any major employers can have so many campuses that they go to. And so when you start talking about smaller companies, the conversation starts to become less around are they coming to campus, but how easily accessible are they through the networks that your school is going to provide. And I think one of the things that is extraordinarily strong at Ross is the very, very strong alumni and really student network. Because when you think about your network, it's not just alums, it's folks who are sitting around you in your classes that may be working at these companies where you say, gosh, there's a really great niche marketing role particularly interested in. And so it's not just a free-for-all of letting you go free and saying, hey, go start calling folks and find jobs. The Career Services Office will offer programming around, how do you seek out these opportunities that might be off campus, but that are particularly niche. And I would say that at Ross, people very much follow their passions. This is very much a place where people aren't coming and saying, gosh, I'm just going to default to this really large mega company because they're coming to campus. So you often find people saying, I came to Ross and I'm going to do exactly what it is that I want to do. And those opportunities are there for you both, again, through the Career Services offering strategies for approaching that search. But beyond that, one of the things that happens in your first year are functional accountability teams, or FACT groups. Vicki, did you lead FACT groups last year?
I did, yes. Yep.
Can you talk a bit about that?
Yeah, sure. So this is kind of part of your duty as a peer coach. So basically, it's just a small group of MBA ones that you meet with every week, and every week kind of has a rough agenda. So, early in the school year, you're talking about how to firm up your Odyssey and how to lock down the best resume you can, things of that nature. But I'd say more often than not, kind of just went off the agenda and just took kind of questions from my FACT group. If they had any questions about recruiting or how to prioritize or whatever it might be. And I was just kind of there to be a point of contact outside of those meetings as well. So if people needed to set up mock interviews with me outside of an appointment, I was happy to do it, things of that nature. So the way that they tried to organize FACT groups was both by kind of function area and then industry focus as well. So I led a fact group of MBA ones that were specifically interested in CPG marketing and brand management. So they just try to cater those fact groups to be as effective as possible given the career interests of the individual.
Great. And so one more question that we had was, I know we talked a little bit about courses that you really enjoyed or thought were useful, but some of the audience would like to know if there are any professors specifically that you would recommend or that you really enjoyed taking class from or interacting with in any way while you were here at Ross.
I'll take that one. So I really enjoyed the time I got to spend with Professor Rajiv Batra on campus. I'd say both in his class, Strategic Brand Management, and then also the contact I got to have with him through my duties with Ross Marketing Club were just great. He's a guy with a ton of passion for both the school and what we're doing in terms of our marketing efforts. So just a great class I took as an MBA 1. People either take that class MBA 1 or MBA 2 year. I just added it in as an elective on top of the core in my first year. I just thought it really set me up well, again, to just speak knowledgeably about marketing and kind of, at least take it as best I could for being a career switcher on a short time frame. So just a great class, a great guy, and a great guy to continue to have contact with even after the class was over.
Yeah, and I would echo what Vicki said in terms of I've had a lot of interactions with professors outside of the classroom for Marketing Club, and I've been really surprised how willing they've been to meet with us, talk about some new initiatives we want to try to drive forward here at Ross. Anytime I've tried to schedule a meeting with a professor, they're more than happy to sit down with you. They love to talk about their research, so there are several professors I've met with just to kind of hear what they're working on. Specifically, I have a professor right now, Aradhana Krishna, who I'm taking a pricing course with, but she's actually the leading authority on sensory marketing, and so I don't have room in my schedule next semester to take her sensory marketing class, but I have met with her a couple of times just to kind of hear a little bit about the research that she's doing, just because that's something that I didn't know a lot about, but now I'm actually pretty interested in after speaking with her. And she actually last week held a brunch for several people in my class just to talk to us a little bit more about how we think the course is going. So definitely she's been super approachable and really willing to work with us on anything, whether it's a personal interest of mine or also helping us with Marketing Club initiatives.
I was amazed at how approachable folks who are not marketing professors necessarily are, and how easy and excited they are to talk to you about a career in marketing and how their specialty might feed into that. So for me, I took Linda Lim's class in global economics, and she is known as being an economic professor, but not necessarily with a marketing bent, but we got to talking several times about the global impact on marketing and how I might transition into a global role at some point and what industries might make the most sense related to that. So sometimes it's just all about you taking the initiative to chat with them and share your goals with them. They are incredibly accessible and excited to be a part of that conversation.
Fantastic. Thanks, ladies. So we just have just a few minutes left, and I'm hoping that you will be able to leave our participants with some words of wisdom. So our prospective students on the phone are obviously taking a look at various programs right now. They're thinking about their options as it relates to MBA, and lots of different things to consider as you're looking at different programs. What are some words of advice that you have for the women who have joined us today for what they should be thinking about when selecting an MBA program? Maybe particularly for marketing. What are the things that you thought about, the key drivers for you that you considered?
I'd say for me, if at all possible, try to get on campus and actually get a feel for the school and the environment. I think different schools have different energies about them, and I just could kind of sense a good fit with Ross. So I think it really helps to meet people face to face, if at all possible, and just continue to talk to people about their experiences at Ross and why they chose Ross in the first place, and how, you know, they benefited from that decision since. But yeah, I'd say if at all possible, try to get on campus. It's a pretty incredible building, and like I said, I just got a great feel for the building and for the energy I experienced when I visited. So I think that was a big selling point for me.
Yeah, I'd say try to determine, you know, like exactly what you want to do and where you're going, and look at the alumni base and the companies that are recruiting at that school. I think those are like pretty important with knowing that you're trying to transition after business school into a full-time job. So just having those resources and especially like a strong network that's willing to help each other, that just really comes in handy.
I absolutely agree with both of those things. I think just not only identifying what you want to do, because in many cases, many of you probably don't know. You might have an idea, but you're still exploring. And so identifying what your potential interests are and then trying to map that to places where you know that if you do change your mind, you will still come out with an incredibly strong experience and, you know, resources that will help you craft what you want, even if that changes. And for me, knowing that Ross was going to be an amazing network and a really solid background no matter what I decided, as well as all the resources that Diana just outlined, like the different types of schools that were affiliated with it if I did decide to go in a particular direction, that was really attractive to me because I knew I could never go wrong, even as my path evolved.
Yeah, and I agree with all three things. I think the other thing for me was I knew I wanted to go into marketing coming into school. So there were kind of two things I was looking for. First, I was looking at what companies were recruiting on campus at the schools I was looking at. I knew that I probably wanted to go into more of a traditional marketing role, and so I knew on-campus recruiting was probably what I would be doing. So wanted to make sure that I was somewhere where there was a good breadth of companies coming, not just in CPG, but in other industries as well. And then because I wasn't in a marketing function before school, I also wanted to make sure there were actual hands-on opportunities for me to kind of get exposure before going into an internship. So MAP was perfect for me for that. But also I learned through looking at Ross and other schools that Ross really, there were little projects like that also weaved into all different kinds of classes. And so you don't just have MAP, but you have a lot of other opportunities to either work on a project for a client or do something a little smaller than a full 7-week MAP project. So I've gotten almost 3 or 4 little mini internships now in addition to my internship over the summer. So that was something that was really important to me as well.
Fantastic. Great. Well, I want to thank our panelists. I think you guys did a fantastic job with really sharing your experiences and for giving a feel for both what the Ross experience is like as well as what your roles are currently now that you've begun embarking upon your career in marketing. For our prospective students, I would encourage you to not only come visit us if you get the opportunity to do so, but please reach out to one of our over 150 student ambassadors that we have listed on our website. If you go to our website and go to connect with a student ambassador, we are able to filter at the top by a variety of characteristics, including the career interests of our current students or the clubs that they're involved in, and really, really talk to as many folks as you can to get a good feel for what this experience is like. We will be providing you with the recording of this presentation today, so we hope that you've enjoyed your experience with us, and we look forward to connecting with you and hopefully reading your applications. All the best, and go blue.
Good luck.